So look, it all kicks off deep in the Brazilian Amazon with this lady Ana Almeida and her homie getting into it, just going back and forth in a real serious talk. Ana was trying to keep it pushing on her hike, cause she was on a mission to find something major out there in the jungle. Her friend was not having it though. He was dead set on ending the trip right then and there because they had already crossed the line into the danger zone. But Ana, she was reckless with it. She ignored the warnings, stuck to her plan, and just bounced, leaving her homie behind to fend for himself. While she's out there solo, two dudes were actually hunting her down, getting a motorboat ready to chase her tail, but before they could even get moving, one of them got snatched up and devoured by a massive anaconda that had been chilling in that rainforest forever. Then the vibe shifts to this guy, Doug McAllister. Back then, Doug was out here grinding as a wedding videographer. Every time he talked to his clients, he'd try to act sophisticated, telling them he didn't just make videos, he made little films. Doug was a straight up horror movie fanatic, and he was always trying to sneak some scary elements into the wedding footage. But his clients were always like, nah fam, and shut him down because they just wanted that romantic, soft filter wedding energy. On the other side of town, you got this extra named Ronald Griffin Jr., but everyone calls him Griff. He was prepping for a scene where he was supposed to play a doctor, but when the cameras started rolling, Griff kept fumbling the bag. He couldn't nail the accent to save his life, and the director got so tired of him messing up his lines that he fired him right on the spot. As time went on, Doug's crew threw him a surprise birthday party at his crib. Griff showed up since they'd been homies for the longest time. Griff came through with a special gift, an old movie cassette titled The Quatch. Turns out it was a movie Doug and Griff starred in when they were just teenagers. In the flick, they played kids who had to throw hands with monsters in the forest. The next day, Doug linked up with Griff, Claire, and Kenny, his core squad. They were all chilling, watching the OG 1997 Anaconda movie and reminiscing about the old days. Doug and Griff had seen that movie like dozens of times because they loved it that much. That's when Griff dropped a bomb. He said he actually acquired the rights to make an Anaconda movie. He wanted to use those rights to make a gritty indie-style reboot. Griff's plan was to have himself and Claire act in it, while Kenny would handle the camera. He wanted Doug to be the brains behind it all, the director and the screenwriter. Claire and Kenny were down for the ride because they wanted a new experience. But Doug, he originally said hell no because he didn't want to miss out on time with his wife and kid. That night, Doug's wife actually encouraged him to go for it and make the movie with Griff. Doug still wasn't feeling it though, thinking the whole thing was going to be a massive waste of time and energy. But then he heard that Paula Cole track, I Don't Wanna Wait, and it hit him different. He got inspired and changed his mind. He told Griff with all the confidence in the world that he wanted to make this Anaconda movie while he was still around to do it. Doug got to work writing the script, officially naming it The Anaconda. After he finished, the rest of the squad read it and were blown away. They thought his script was terrifying, emotional, and straight up exciting. For the next step, Doug did the math and said the whole production would cost about $43,000. Armed with that borrowed cash, the team prepped to head to the Amazon for a 3-week shoot. Once the crew made it to the boat rental spot by the Amazon, they met this snake handler named Carlos Santiago Braga, or just Santiago, who Kenny had hired to help him out. Santiago's introduced the team to his pet snake named Hater, which he kept locked in a box. The plan was for Doug's squad to use Hater as the star anaconda for their flick. Santiago was preaching that Hater was a tame snake that listened to his every move, so he was 100% sure his pet wouldn't try to snack on the crew. But while all that was going down, this lady Anna was moving real shady. She secretly snatched the keys to a rental boat belonging to a guy named Bruno. She played Doug's team for fools, pretending she was Bruno's daughter so she could hijack the boat and take charge of it during their filming trip. She already knew they were there to rent Bruno's boat, and leading them was the easiest way for her to pull off her own secret mission. Once the boat hit the deep Amazon, the cameras started rolling on the Anaconda. Claire was playing a biologist who hires a snake tracker, played by Griff, to hunt down the snake that killed her family. Since Claire and Griff used to be a thing, when they were younger, they were actually real comfortable doing the romantic scenes Doug wrote for them. That night, they filmed a scene where their characters bumped heads. Doug and the crew thought it was high-key exciting, but Anna was standing on the side thinking the whole thing sounded straight up goofy. Right as everyone was trying to catch some Z's, Griff started screaming like he'd seen a ghost because Hater had suddenly crawled into his room. Turns out the storage box was busted and the snake slipped out, though Santiago swore he fixed it so it wouldn't happen again. The next day, it was time for Griff to film a scene where he actually fights Hader to protect Claire. But when Griff had to get his face real close to the snake, he completely lost his cool. In a straight up panic, Griff accidentally tossed Hader into the river, and the poor snake ended up getting crushed by the boat's propeller. Santiago was devastated, burning Hader's body as a final tribute because he really saw that snake as his friend. Griff felt bad and gave Santiago a sincere apology, telling him he understood the pain of losing a real one. They ended up drinking and chopping it up together. Griff told Santiago about his old days acting in a SWAT series, and it turned out Santiago was a huge fan. Because of that, Santiago actually started liking Griff and got motivated to go find a brand new snake for the movie. In the dead of night, Santiago and Griff headed out into the river to find a replacement. It was pitch black out there, and they ended up losing each other. While Santiago was wandering solo, a real deal, massive anaconda that had been lurking in the water finally made its move and attacked him. Griff stumbled back to the boat solo and told the squad he lost track of Santiago while they were out hunting for a new snake. Doug and Anna's team hopped off the boat to go look for him since he'd been gone for over an hour. While they were combing through the brush, they stumbled upon this abandoned van. Right when they stepped inside, the biggest anaconda they had ever seen slammed Santiago's body right against the windshield. Griff didn't wait around. He jumped in the driver's seat and peeled out of there at high speed. Suddenly, a pack of motorcyclists started chasing him down on a mission to snatch Anna. That's when Anna finally spoke up, saying those dudes were illegal gold miners who'd smoke anyone entering their turf. At the peak of the chase, Anna grabbed a rifle and took out 2 of the bikers while Kenny caught the whole thing on camera. Once they got back to the ship, they had to square off with even more miners looking for her, but Anna handled them with a surprise attack. Once things cooled down, Anna promised she'd lead them to a small airport about a day and a half away. But Doug and Griff started beefing hard. Doug wanted to scrap the movie for everyone's safety, but Griff wasn't trying to hear it. He wanted to keep filming. Since they were already deep in it, Doug eventually caved because, deep down, he didn't want to go home empty-handed either. Looking at a replica Oscar his son gave him for luck, Doug got the idea to pivot and make Anna the new lead actress. Doug stayed up rewriting the script to fit Anna in as a strong woman character who saves Griff and Claire from the snake. Griff was high-key salty about the changes, complaining that it made his character look like a chump if a woman had to save him. But Doug ignored the hate and started filming Anna's scenes anyway. While they were sailing toward the airport, they crossed paths with a massive professional film crew. Turns out that was the actual Sony team heading out to film the official Anaconda reboot. That's when the truth hit the fan. Griff never had the rights to make the movie. Sony had held onto those rights since 1997. Doug went off on Griff for lying to his friends and putting their lives at risk for a fake dream. Exposed and feeling betrayed because Doug prioritized Anna over him, Griff quit the project and hopped on a motorboat to go try and join the Sony crew. But when he got to their set, it was a total disaster. Everyone was gone, and he saw a crew member getting munched on by the giant snake. Back on the main ship, Anna finally showed her true colors and pulled her rifle on Doug and the others. She forced him to move a bunch of bags onto the boat, which turned out to be filled with gold. Then the real plot twist dropped. The people hunting Anna all this time weren't criminals, they were the police. Anna was actually the illegal gold miner they were trying to bust. Griff showed up with his rifle, and thinking he was being a hero, shot the police officer instead. Doug tried to warn him he shot the wrong person, but Anna already had her gun pointed at Claire. Claire wasn't having it, though. She headbutted Anna and snatched the rifle away. While that monster anaconda was busy snacking on Anna, Doug and the squad didn't waste a second and used that distraction to bounce. On the way out, Doug felt bad for the words he said and apologized to Griff for cursing him out. But right as they were making peace, the snake lunged out and snatched Doug, dragging him off to another spot. The rest of the crew scrambled back to the ship, where they accidentally stumbled upon Doug and a wild boar. Since they were both laid out and not moving, Griff's team figured Doug and the pig were both dead from the attack. That's when Kenny came up with a cold-blooded idea. He wanted to use Doug and the boar as bait to distract the snake so the rest of them could get back to the ship safely. But as the plan was going down and the anaconda started closing in, Doug suddenly woke up. It turns out the snake had just spat him out alive so it could save him to eat later on. Doug had to hustle to get back to his friends who weren't too far away. In all that chaos, the boar woke up too. It was just fainted. Like Doug was. Luckily for Doug, the anaconda decided to munch on the boar instead, which gave him just enough time to escape and link back up with the squad. While they were booking it to the ship, they found the wrecked set of that Sony Anaconda movie. The snake was right on their heels, but it backed off and fled after getting hit by a flare. And you won't believe who fired it. It was Ice Cube himself. For those who don't know, Ice Cube was the OG star from the 1997 film, and he was out there on a mission to find and rescue J-Lo. After Ice Cube left, the squad decided to use some fire equipment they found on the set. They split up the chores to make sure they finished the mission and killed that snake so they could finally leave the Amazon alive. Doug and Griff lured the beast into a trap, hoping to blow it up with a bunch of firecrackers. But that snake was too slick. It dodged the explosion and was still ready to fight. While the anaconda was trying to get back up, Doug grabbed that replica Oscar trophy his son gave him and used it to stab the snake straight in the dome, finally killing it for good. Sometime later, Doug and Griff were at a film festival showing off the Anaconda, which they actually finished thanks to the team's hard work. Griff ended up marrying Claire, and with their blessing, Doug finally got to make that horror-themed wedding video he always wanted. Griff even landed another role in that SWAT series. Back at home, J-Lo herself pulled up to visit Doug. She told him that Sony had sent a legal warning to Griff's team because the film was technically illegal, but she had watched it and loved it. She offered Doug a real deal to direct a legit legal Anaconda reboot. Doug was so shocked by the opportunity that he literally fainted on the spot, and just when you thought everyone was gone, it turns out Santiago was still alive. He hadn't died when the snake spat him out.